During the swearing-in ceremony for Justice Hussein Baba Yusuf as the substantive Chief Judge of the Federal Capital Territory FCT High Court, which held at the Supreme Court Complex Abuja yesterday, the Chief Justice of Nigeria, CJN, Justice Ibrahim Muhammad, once again brought to the fore the indiscriminate issuance of injunctive orders by courts across the country, warning that such acts continue to erode public confidence in the country's judiciary. The CJN took a swipe at judges and lawyers who went about forum shopping, cautioning that their actions would bring down not only the judiciary, but the entire nation. He stated that an occasion like this may be auspicious for self-assessment. It is by coincidence that this event comes at a time the Nigerian Bar Association is holding its 61st Annual General Conference, tagged Taking the Lead. Joining us now from Port Harcourt in Rivers State, where the 61st Annual General Conference of the Nigerian Bar Association is holding, is Monday Onyekachi Ubani, former second Vice President of the Nigerian Bar Association, NBA. Good morning, Mr. Ubani. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, Tundu, good morning. Thank you for having me.
Well, Monday Ubani, thank you for joining us. Very quickly, I mean, this is an old issue. Lawyers and judges behaving badly. The Chief Justice of Nigeria, this is not the first time he would complain about this. In fact, this day was saying that the CJN is lamenting reckless court orders and abuse of processes, abuse of jurisdiction, forum shopping, and all of that. Most recently, the CJN had cause to summon some chief judges to Abuja and threatening to discipline them. Well, I mean, in spite of all of this, nothing has changed. People are still, committing the same offense from one jurisdiction to the other. So do you think that not enough is being done to sanction these erring judges, and that is why the problem continues? Because the impunity with which the abuse continues is frightening, despite the CJN, always issuing these threats.
Yeah, thank you once again for having me. Of course, this is not the first time we have discussed this issue on your very reputable television house. I think that last month, the issue became so rampant, and then to the extent that the entire nation, we are wondering what is actually going on within the judicial sector. For us in NBA, the president of the Nigerian Bar Association issued a statement which condemned the issue of forum shopping and this issue of conflicting court orders emanating from all over the court in the country. And then he also said that he has set up a three-man committee, which I'm a member, in order to take a look at what has happened with those forum shopping lawyers, and then make a recommendation. I'm happy to announce that this committee has looked into what transpired both in the Abuja case that emanated from Anambra and the PDP matter involving Chief Secondus. And we have actually made our recommendation to the president of the Nigerian Bar Association. For the judiciary, for the NJC, I think they have also taken some steps in terms of querying those judges that were accused of issuing out those conflicting court orders. Mostly ex parte, and I think the issue of response is what is being done presently. So apart from the issue of lamentation, I think the best part in the whole thing is that we must now move into the action stage of ensuring that we take some practical steps to nip it in the bud. If you know what is going on, it's mostly in political cases that we have this issue of ex parte orders that are, clearly, issued left, right, center in such a manner that really undermine the confidence of the people on the judiciary, and which is not good for us, even as we age towards the 2023 general election. So the best thing at this point is not to lament anymore, but to take a practical action that will actually nip it in the bud, and then send a signal to those who may likely want to hear in future that they will be punished. The punishment is the stage now in which we're in, and I think every one should be involved, the bar and bench, in making sure their members are kept in check properly to avoid an ugly reputation of what has happened in the recent months.
Which is what the CJN said. He called on both the bar and bench to do self-assessment and self-cleansing. You talked about punishment. What is the best way to communicate to people that there are going to be consequences? Is it not to impose consequences? Has there been any move to punish errant judges so far?
As I said earlier, there is strategy in place. What the bar did was to set up a three-man committee to look at the entire scenario comprehensively, which is very important. We have to look at the cases and then look at the processes that have been filed by these lawyers. And then look at the issue whether they breach any of our normal ethics, especially in the area of abuse. If a matter emanates from a particular jurisdiction, will it be right for you to go to another jurisdiction that has no any connection whatsoever in terms of where the party reside or even of the subject matter? Will it be right for a lawyer who has passed through law school to engage in such a practice? And if it is not proper for such a lawyer to engage in such practice, what will we do in the circumstance? So, as I said earlier, we are at the level now of looking at what transpired, because fair hearing is also important. You must give these people who you have alleged have done some certain things that are not good, a fair hearing. You must hear from their own side what has happened. And that is the stage in which we are in. Having looked at the entire processes and having looked at the legal gamut of what transpired, how a process should be filed, how a process should be served, and how you should go about initiating any legal process. If they have erred there, then a recommendation will be made. And then they must be given an opportunity also to be heard before any disciplinary measure will be meted out. So we are at that stage now. But as for strategy in place, of course, strategy is in place. For us in the NBA, we are taking practical steps in ensuring that we go through the entire cases, look at where we think that something is fundamentally wrong, and then make the recommendation, which we have actually done. So it's for the NBA now to do what they're supposed to do, having looked at whatever we have recommended. At that stage, it will go to a level of hearing from the side of those people that may have erred. So for us, strategy is in place. I don't know of the NJC, but I think also they have actually issued some query, and so they also need to hear from them before any disparity measure should be meted out. I think that is the way it ought to go.
But a lot of people are looking at the NBA and saying, okay, this conversation about strategy is in place. It's very boring to hear because nothing has been done over the years. It's not today we've been talking about these issues, fair hearing and the likes. It's not today we've been repeating the facts. Even at the conference you are in, just on Monday, Justice Odili, while was speaking on behalf of the Chief Justice, still made mention of this. The question is, when will lawyers learn once and for all? When is all of this going to cease? When are advocates going to pick the ethics of their job over money? Because the problem here is the juicy financial reward and packages.
If you find out in all these cases we are referring to, they are mostly political cases. And the advice to lawyers and to judges over time have been that we must try as much as possible to avoid the politicians. They like doing things that are not proper. And then those who are in the profession must not in any way go along with them. In most of the things that happen in their profession, you must be very careful to uphold the ethics of your profession, no matter the pressure they mount on you. Politicians are very desperate. And we have also located why politicians are very desperate. That's why we've been saying that even with the issue of electronic transfer and electronic voting system that we are campaigning or canvassing for, if you don't deal with the issue of pegs of office, what these guys get into, how much they get out of the system, if you don't deal with it, this desperation to enter into public office will not cease. They will even compromise the electronic system. So the politicians are desperate, we all know it. And every profession must be very careful when dealing with them, because they can make you to commit most of the things that are clearly unethical. And so lawyers are being warned, judges are being warned. Of course, over time, you see the CJM warning judges. Even the one that was sworn in, as you said rightly yesterday, the Chief Judge of the Federal Capital Territory, he was also warned that we have to be careful. We have to distance ourselves from desperate politicians because they can mess up any system. And so for us, it's issue of discipline. The moment you begin to mete out discipline to erring lawyers and erring judges, or even professionals generally, the accountants and all that, you find that people will begin to learn and begin to avoid it. And I think that the NBA that is headed by Olumide Akwata at this point in time says, look, something has to be done. we must not keep on lamenting. We could not keep on discussing these issues, but disciplinary measures should be meted out in order to deter. If we don't use deterrence level, there is no way people will stop committing sin. Even in the Bible, it says so. Men continue to sin when there is no punishment. So punishment is the only thing that deters. When we talk about punishment and disciplinary measures, that again is what separates developed economies and developed society from the developing countries. What they do there is that people are punished for offenses. It's not as if they are righteous. It's not as if they are all saints. They can flout others, and we have seen white men come over here and flout others because of our systemic failure. So it is issue of punishment that deters, and I think that this time around, NBA is serious about issue of punishment. And I think also the NJC, for the CJN to be lamenting and saying what he thinks is right and what he thinks is wrong in the entire process means they are all worried. And I think this time around, those who are actually involved may not go scot-free. There must be some level of punishment, that we meted out. So take it from me and go to the bank with this particular statement that this time around, it will not be business as usual. Rufai.
Well, Ubani, I get your point about punishment, about discipline. But is it possible that these lawyers and judges who engage in this abuse of, process, could it be that they lack the necessary knowledge? Could it be that, it's a problem in terms of capacity? Do you think that the NBA and, the NJC should be looking at the option of, training and retraining in order to address what may well be a problem of capacity and a critical knowledge gap within the bench and the bar?
You are absolutely correct, with that angle you have just raised. And I think every profession should engage in that. Training and retraining. We are in Port Harcourt in our annual conference, and most of the issues that are cropping up are things that actually matter in our legal practice and how lawyers should relate. Yesterday, we talked about this issue of regulating legal practice. And we had people like J.B. Daudu, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. We had Funke Adekoya, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Ubani, Doctor, was the moderator. And this issue also cropped up, that we should be careful. That lawyers should be careful. Lawyers should not in any way pander to the interest of their client, but they should at all times try to uphold the tenets of the profession itself, and especially the issue of ethics. These are the kind of things that should go on. The judges also, I'm sure they are also engaged in this issue of training and retraining. But most importantly, we keep on saying these issues. That issue of even the initial training, even the initial recruitment process of judges, even the lawyers also when they are being trained in law school, that this issue of ethics must be emphasized. The issue that no matter the level of poverty in the country, you must not in any way betray the ethics of your profession. You must stand still. You must be very, very serious with whatever you are doing because people are watching, especially a legal profession that everyone is interested in. It's a public interest, profession that people will really want to see the upholding of standard, the upholding of the rule, of whatever you believe in. And when you do it well, people will begin to commend it. You can see the kind of reaction of Nigerians when this issue of ex parte orders keep on flying all over the country. People were wondering, does it mean that we can go to the market and buy ex parte orders? Of course, I've heard clients say, Mr. Ubani, go to court and get me an order of an injunction to restrain. And I tell them it's not easy as that. You have to give the other party the instance to be heard. You don't go about, asking judges to just, give you ex parte order without hearing the other, because it's a fundamental principle in law that the other party must be given also a hearing before any judgment can be passed against that individual. So it is this issue of training and retraining, and for the judges recruitment process, let it be that those who are actually called to be at the bench, really have the desire, really have the comportment, really have the integrity, really have the character, and then understanding of how grave their job is, and they will come and in that process try to do and met out justice, and then balance, the issue of hearing from all parties before judgment is given. I think that is something we should emphasize, and what is actually going on presently is also part of the retraining process for lawyers in the profession. Dr. Ruben.
Right, so you're currently in Port Harcourt, the venue of the 61st NBA Annual General Conference, and your theme this year is taking the lead. Can you give us more information, expatiate on that, taking the lead, and how the NBA is, poised to do so?
That is it. We believe that as a profession that everyone is interested in, we should be the one to actually take the lead. And that is why, as I said earlier, we're discussing this issue of erring lawyers, that this time around, that erring lawyers will not be going scot-free. Yesterday, we discussed the issue of lawyers in public service. What manner of job are they expected to carry out? And in carrying out their responsibilities, even as an attorney general or as a governor, that you must have in mind that you're a lawyer first and foremost, and there are ethics of the profession you must uphold. And the moment you fail to, then we will not give you a breathing space. When you come back after you have probably stepped down from the office, we will make sure that you are punished if you have not been able to carry the ethics of the profession, even while acting as a public officer. So that is part of taking the lead. That we must take the lead. We must not allow this country to keep on deteriorating. Why the legal practitioners on their own side are not helping in order to build a country that every person should be proud of. We are also insisting that even in the ease of doing business, let's take the lead as a nation. We shouldn't be every year lamenting that, oh, people want to come and invest in the country. They cannot have access to the basic things like opening of company. You want to start a new company. It takes you almost 6 months for you to register. So we must take the lead in ease of business. We must take the lead in punishing our professionals, who are not doing well, who are not representing the interests, of the legal profession. We must also take the lead, even in the profession itself. That the law itself is now growing. Technology is what everyone is using in application of law, in jurisprudence all over the world. So what are we doing in terms of even the judges themselves, who are still using shorthand in this particular century? Whereas all over the world now, it is a technology that is deployed in legal practice, in legal judicial system. So we are saying we must take the lead in all that regard, as a profession. We must also insist that Nigeria begin to take the lead in every area of our life, economic, political. And that is most of the topics that are being discussed. Today, there are so many topics that have been lined up. We are talking about even the amendment of our constitution, where we have people like Femi Falana, Mike Ezekome, and Kio Briggs, and then even Dr. Prof. Odin Kalo. These are the ones that we close the session, and we're talking about this issue of a constitutional amendment. Why is it that we keep on amending our constitution every time, and we're not getting it right in terms of having a constitution that has relevance with the people? Because the people must relate with the constitution. Is it our constitution that is being reviewed, or is their own constitution that is being reviewed? So our constitution must have relevance with the people. So we are talking about generally that we must take the lead, both in the economic sphere, both in the political sphere, both in the legal profession itself, both even punishing our professionals who are not upholding the ethics of the profession. So we must take the lead. And that is why we chose that team, taking the lead. And I tell you that the guest speakers we have had, Bishop Kuka, who opened the conference, who delivered the keynote, and then the CJN himself also, and all other that were invited, including the Speaker of the House. They were all referring to the fact that Nigeria needs to make a very strong statement in the world in taking lead in almost all the spheres of, because we have all the resources, to be in the lead. And this issue of taking back a position as a nation is not going to help, our future generation.
Well, thank you very much, Monday Ubani. And we hope that, everyone will take the lead to move Nigeria forward. Thank you very much indeed.
All right.